Welcome, this is N1IR at n1ir.com, and today's subject is Chitty Bit Bang. Basically, what we're going to be doing today is how to build a bit bang, to bit bang an AVR using Linux and RS232 to program it. So, the first thing you want to do to program one of these AVR chips is to build one of these. This is a modified dasa programmer, so you'll be able to find this online. If you type in dasa and a programmer, it'll come up with something like this. However, I'm missing a few components here. I didn't have any Zener diodes, so I eliminated them because my RS232 port happens to be 5 volts out, which most of them are in modern computers. They're RS232Cs. If you're using strictly RS232, you're going to need the Zeners in there, but with mine I have 5 volts out, so that's fine. So what you're going to do is solder up something like this. Here's your female 9-pin connector that's going to fit on your RS232 port and have 5 wires. Used all sorts of different colors here. So what pins you're going to use is you're going to use pins 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. And you're going to mark them appropriately. So this is what I did. Pin 3, which is my TXD, that's red. Pin 4, which is my DTR, that's white. CTS is my pin 8. Coming from the connector, that's CTS. My RTS is pin 7, and of course pin 5 is my ground. So I'm going to do this video in a couple of parts. One's going to be just the hardware part, and the other one's going to be the software. So this is just the hardware on hooking it all up. So if you look on the schematic here, I'm going to reprint this out and post it on the website. And basically all I'm using is 3 4.7 k ohm resistors. Pin 7 through the resistor. There's a momentary switch I have in here, so if you want to program this, you have to hold this in and hit program in your software. This is your reset line. So internally here, there's actually a pull-up resistor, and it brings it up to a active high. So if you hit the program, what it does is when it programs it through avrdude, it pulls this load to reset it, etc., etc. So that's your reset line. So you can actually have circuitry hanging off here and test it out really quick and make sure it works. So that's what my first project I did is I hung 2 LEDs off pins 2 and pin 7 and test my program out. Hit the program button, let it program, let it go. It would get out of reset, it'd be programmed, and then the LEDs would flash. So let's hook this thing up. So we have our, this is the ATTiny 85, and we have our modified dasa cable. And again, there's a few software modifications you have to do in order for this thing to work in Arduino 1.0, which I'm going to show you, or you can use the AVR programmer. So I got 5 cables here. This is going to program right in the back of my computer. I haven't tested this out with the USB to RS232 yet. I'm lucky enough, fortunate enough to have a RS232 port on the back of my computer, so I don't need a USB to 232 converter, but that's one of the things I want to try out a little bit later. So let's wire this thing up. Our CTS, if we look on our schematic, our CTS goes directly to pin 6. So I'm going to take our CTS line and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now you notice that I also have my power rails installed here. You're going to have to run external 5-volt supply for this thing to work, to program. So CTS, let's refer back to our schematic here. CTS is pin 6. So pin 8 of the RS232 port goes over to pin 6 of the ATTiny. Okay, let's hook up our ground 5. Here's pin 5 of the RS232, which we've marked ground. That's pretty simple. Plug it in the ground right there. Okay, so let's take a look here. We've got pin 4, which is DTR, that goes to 7. So I'm just going to take a 4.7 k ohm resistor. I'm going to cut this down a little bit. So there's pin 7. Right? So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the 4.7 k ohm resistor, and that's going to DTR. So I have my cable all labeled out, DTR. So DTR now connects. DTR is pin 4 of the RS232. That goes through the resistor to pin 7. Okay, so we're almost there. We have RTS, which is going to pin 1. So we'll hook that up really quick. Is pin 1, which is our reset line, by the way. I don't have the switch in there. I'm going to physically take the wire in and out when I program this instead of a switch, and that's my RTS line. So RTS, which is pin 7 of the RS232 connector, goes through the resistor to pin 1 of our ATTiny 85. Now you notice that this ATTiny 85 is blue. I permanent mark it blue because it already has a program in there. I usually take permanent mark with different colors and color these in for different programs. So this one happens to be a TV Be Gone because I know it's blue. So that's another little trick that I do, is I have them all color coded by program, what's in there. So anyways, pin 3, which is TXD. If we take a look at our TXD line, I'm going to cut the resistor down again. So our TXD is pin 3, and that goes to pin 5 of the ATTiny 85. So here's pin 5 right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's our TXD. That's our TX data. Goes right in there. You can actually hang an LED off of here. I've done that in the past, and you can actually see the data stream go through with the LED being programmed. It's pretty cool. Might do that in another video, but again, this is a basic, very simple programmer to get avrdude up and running, so you can burn your hex files or burn bootloaders in. All right, so we got one more line. So and that's it. I thought we had one more line, but we don't. So let's double check. Pin 1 goes through the resistor to RTS, which we got. Pin 2 is not connected. Pin 3 is not connected. Pin 4 is ground. Goes to our ground line. This also goes to the ground of the power supply, the 5-volt power supply. The 5-volt supply off camera. Pin 5 goes through the resistor to TXD. Pin 6 goes directly to CTS. Pin 7 goes through the resistor to DTR. And then pin 8 goes to our plus 5. And that's basically how you can hook up your modified DASA programming cable right to the ATTiny 85 to program it. So once it's programmed, once I hit the program, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this line, let's bring it up here, and that will pull my reset line up high because there's an internal pull-up resistor, and then the program will run because this is hanging low all the time. So if you have this thing plugged in right here like that, it's always going to be in reset mode and your program's not going to run. This is what I originally ran into when doing this, and it took me a couple minutes to figure out what was going on. So once it's programmed, pull this out, put it in a safe place somewhere, and then your program will run. Alright, so we're going to go on to part 2 with the software in avrdude and how to set that up in Linux.